You're inside the press box. Christian FM Sports presents Inside the Press Box, where we discuss all sports from our favorite high school team to college and pro. Here's your host, Paul Tipton and Gary Paris.
Vero Nation, hey, how's it going? Well, it's been a few weeks since we've had a chance to connect again, and so glad you're here. Hey, we got a lot of things to get to. We'll talk about the finishing of the regular season for Vero Beach, and we'll turn our attention to the playoff picture. Even though Vero's got a bye week this week, we're going to tell you what to expect over, hopefully, for Vero Beach the next several weeks. Paul Tipton along with Gary Paris. Thanks for joining us inside the press box. Gary, we finished up the regular season the last Friday against Kissimmee Osceola, the Cowboys, a team we know very well. We've seen them a lot over the years, whether it's been in the regular season or more specifically, there's been so many postseason matchups, and quite honestly, on most times, it's been the advantage to the Cowboys.
It has been, Paul, and thank you for having me back again. This is a lot of fun where we get to talk about football, especially Vero Beach High School. Osceola comes to Vero Beach. That hasn't been for a long time. Yeah. And usually we're on the road playing them, and we have lost the last few times in the playoff games against Osceola. They came to Vero Beach. A lot of people had them favored to beat us here in our own stadium, and it was going to be a very close game. Vero might win by a field goal. I say that because kicking has been a hindrance to us sometimes this year, and because our two losses this year have been by 1 point.
Yeah.
We went for 2, didn't get it.
Yep.
We missed 3 extra points, and we lost by 1 point to CAI Clearwater Academy International, and the 1 point by Treasure Coast. Treasure Coast finished the season undefeated at 7-0, and we're at 6-2. Could have easily extended that 60-some-odd game winning streak to 2 more, but that's the way football is. It's a game of inches, also a game of kicks, and that's just a human nature in it. But the playoff this year, Paul, I'm going to let you tell our audience, this has been a unique year. There is you're not rewarded for how good you are. You're rewarded for you playing this year.
That is true. It actually is. It's a reward of if you decided to actually have a season this year, regardless of your record. If you opted in back in September, said, hey, we'd love to play in the playoffs, then you were in. So if you didn't win a single game, if you won all of your games or somewhere in between all of that, didn't matter. You were in. It's hard to really tell because of the way how the state put the brackets together. You know, most people want to say, well, are we the number 1 seed or are we the last seed? You don't really know. All you know is that, the brackets were put together several weeks ago. And all teams that they elected to be in the playoffs, you were in. And they basically came up with a blind draw back in middle of October. And when the draws came out, they put the brackets together, and here's how it boils down. So each region, there's always 4 regions in the state for your respective classes. And once you decide which region that you're in, and Vero Beach is in Region 3, then you have to decide, okay, how many teams in that region elected to be in the playoffs? If there were more than 16 teams that decided to be in the playoffs, well, they have to have a couple of play-in games so that then they can set the brackets for what we traditionally know as the playoff bracket. So they've had those. Actually, the last 2 weeks now have been play-in games for respective regions. Vero Beach I gotta say, Gary, might be the best draw that you could probably hope for in any bracket, especially for Region 3, because we have some very powerful teams in this region here. You've got Miami Palmetto, you got Dr. Phillips, you got Treasure Coast, you got Orlando Boone, and then, of course, Vero Beach. I mean, those are 5 powerhouse teams all in the same region. And, Gary, I can't believe when I saw the brackets and when they came out and saw Vero Beach's draw, how Vero Beach came out in such a favorable position.
And they did it, like you said, by blind draw and coin flipping. They flipped the coin for home and away.
Yeah.
And Vero Beach, I don't know what coach called or what they called, but they all the athletic directors and were on a Zoom, and when they did all this, I assumed that's what they did, and so there would be a transparency. Vero Beach got home games for the first 4 ball games of this tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way at the semifinal, they're a home game at Vero Beach. If that's where they play the Final Four, depending on where they play it, I think they're playing it at the home stadiums and throughout the state. So we were very fortunate to be able to draw the home on all these games. The thing that's, like you said, we're in a very tough division. Mm-hmm. Treasure Coast is undefeated. Dr. Phillips is 6-1. Miami Palmetto, the rest of the county opt out. Miami Palmetto is 1-1. Now they've played. Their one loss was to one of the best teams in Miami. So that so your competition of maybe just 2 games is pretty good, but they haven't had it like we've had, like 8 games during the year. You like to have a few more games under your belt. But with that being said, Paul, there's a thing called Florida High School Football that is it's a website that you can go to, and Joe Pincos is the gentleman that does all the well-known picks the schools that he thinks and tells you how many points they're going to win by and all through that throughout the guy's like 82% of the time he's right.
That's pretty impressive.
That's impressive. When you go to his website, we were favored to beat Osceola by 3 points according to him. It didn't turn out that way. We beat him pretty bad. Mm-hmm. But he had us favored to win. Now he's picking for the state championship Miami Palmetto playing Sanford Seminole in the championship game, and he has the Sanford Seminole beating Palmetto.
Wow. That's saying something, because Miami Palmetto has a lot of guys. If you remember last year with Deerfield came into Vero Beach with somewhere in the neighborhood about 25 or 26 Division I prospects on that roster. Miami Palmetto equals that kind of number. So to say that you could find another team that can beat them, of course, Deerfield did not win the championship last year, so it is possible.
Well, you didn't. And to start off their playoff, Dr. Phillips, who is a premier team out of, we know them. Mm-hmm. We've seen them a couple years ago when they eliminated us in the 3rd round, and we know what they can do and their team. They got to travel. Listen to this now: the luck of the draw, the coin flip, or however, they have to travel all the way to Miami to play Miami Palmetto.
Yeah,
I mean that's a long trip for your first game of the season. So,
yeah.
Those 2 teams play each other right off the bat. So one of your best top 3 or 4 teams is going to be eliminated. Then in that bracket also, Treasure Coast will, if they're fortunate enough to win and they move on to the next, they will play the winner of that game down the line.
They will. Yeah. So right now, Palmetto is favored by 4 points over Dr. Phillips. So you almost kind of call that a bit of a push. Treasure Coast is favored by 60. Yeah, that's a 6-0 over Cypress Creek. So you got to feel pretty good that Treasure Coast is going to win that game, move on to round 2 of the playoffs. Vero Beach, they have to wait a week, and they will wait for the winner between Centennial and Central, teams that we've played. We know them very well. They're district opponents. And right now, the line is Centennial favored by 8 points. So, really, bottom line is, Gary, and coaches will tell you this all the time, you can look at all the brackets all you want. At some point, you got to play the teams, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. You got to play them all at some point if you want to win a state title. Well,
it's funny you said that. One of our schools to the north of us, they didn't win a game this year in regular season.
Right.
They go into a play-in game, and they beat Okeechobee. Mm-hmm. And now they're in the playoff at 1-8, which would have never happened naturally in the past. But because of the year it is, this school gets a chance to is in the playoffs. And So you never know who's going to get hot and who's not going to who's going to have a bad game. You go in and you have injured players. I mean, to give you another example, Treasure Coast has been on a bye week for the last 2 weeks. They finished their season, and they're watching teams play now. They're getting a chance to get some healing in, and they also got a chance to evaluate who they're going to play. There's good and bad. Is there going to be any rust on the team when they go out and they play their first playoff game?
Well, let me flip the script on you on that, Gary. So you got Treasure Coast, who's been off for 2 weeks. You got Miami Palmetto, who's only played 2 games over the last 2 weeks for the season. They're 1-1. And so you got to wonder with them, like, okay, have they found the right chemistry? Because, we watched Vero, especially when I think about the offensive line, how many different changes have we made over those 8 games that we've played? We've had some changes because coaches are trying to find the right chemistry with those 5 guys. They've had to make some shifts on defense because of injuries and whatnot. You got to wonder, does a team like Miami Palmetto, even though they've got all these great talented players, can they find the right chemistry to make a run in the playoffs?
Well, that's up again. That's going to be your outcome will be due to the fact how good a coaching you have.
Yeah.
2 is if you got all this talent, how well can it come together? The problem is they don't get a break.
Yeah.
They get Dr. Phillips, who is 6-1 coming in, very talented team of their own. So it's going to be a slugfest right off the bat. So, and again, if you're most vulnerable would be at this stage of the game. For every game they play after that, they're going to get better and better if they win.
You know what's interesting when you look at this playoff bracket, Gary, is the teams who are not there. We don't see a single Palm Beach school. There's only a few Miami schools that have elected independently to join into the playoff race. So, yeah, again, this is, the counties that traditionally have, teams that can make deep runs in the playoffs. They're not there.
Well, they opted out. They chose not to. Their school system, when this pandemic was going strong in the spring and the summer, they had to make a decision. They had till the 18th of September to either opt in or opt out. They chose to opt out, except teams like Miami Palmetto. There's a few schools in Miami. All they had to do was play 1 game.
Yep.
And they're in.
Yeah.
And that's what Miami Palmetto said. I can get a couple of games in. Yeah. I got a team this year I think I can win the state championship with. And so they chose to play in. Palm Beach, I think, maybe had 1 or 2 schools that opted in also, but that's it. I mean, they chose to have their own schedule, their own playoff in the county championships or whatever. But it's a tough year, and you can't fault any school for choosing to do what they did. No, I mean, because they were again thinking the safety of the athletes and the thinking of the players themselves and coaches and all. And the advice they got was, let's do it. I think if they had to go back again and see what they could have, how they could have handled it back in August, they may have thought different because schools have had problems. We lost the Venice game because of a COVID-19. But we've done a good job of monitoring. Our school system has done a great job of keeping it ahead of schedule and watching and monitoring the kids. Yep. So it's been a tough year to say, but I congratulate all those that are in and those that are not. I truly sympathize with you because your seniors this year, they don't get a chance to come back and they don't get a chance to play for that championship.
That is true. And, it's one of those things you just, what do? You have to, abide by whatever the leaders in your respective counties and districts and whatever their decisions are, that's what you have to go by. And so it's unfortunate, But for those teams that are able to participate, it's going to be an interesting race to the championship here. Gary, for Vero Beach, as you said, I mean, give kudos to our school district, to our athletic director, and to our coaching staff for able to get in 8 games this season. When we were back in June and July wondering, would there even be a season? We didn't even know. But they were able to put together a season. And as you said, I mean, we missed 1 game because of, quarantines. Okay, that's fine. We can live with you can live with something like that. I mean, you still got 8 games in, so your seniors got a chance to play. Now we've got an opportunity to see if we can make a run in the playoffs here. Got some advantages working in your favor with home field advantage pretty much through the playoffs. And it got finished the other night against Kissimmee Osceola, which, by the way, if Kissimmee gets hot and gets on a run, they're down in region number 4. We could eventually see them in the Final Four, the semifinals, before the state game. So all that to say, Friday night, Gary, we were kind of not sure what kind of team we were going to see out on the field for both sides, really. And when the game got started, it didn't feel like we would see the outcome that we saw. But how about that offense for Vero Beach, and more specifically that defense on Friday night really played its heart out. I mean, limiting the ground game of Kissimmee to 73 yards and an air game of only 76 yards for a total of 149 yards of offense by the Cowboys.
Outstanding game. If you listened to it or you were there, you saw the Indians, in my opinion, put together its best game of the season, because it had all facets of the game working. Yeah, you can see the energy that Davon Hicks brought back as a starter out there on the, his chemistry. He just kind of makes everybody play to the next level type of a game, and it was great to have him back. And I thought Jackson Nairn threw really only one bad pass the whole game. Yeah. Even though, and that pass was, he had a wide open Wendell Bethel, and he missed him for a touchdown. But other than that, that young man played his best game of the season.
He did.
And then how about Bobby McMillan? I mean, he is, if there was the word consistency was in the dictionary, you look it up, it would probably say Bobby McMillan. How
about these numbers, Gary? So on the ground, 24 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. And oh, by the way, he caught 7 passes for 46 yards and a touchdown.
Well, he's phenomenal. He's got soft hands. He's got good hands coming out, little swing pattern. Plus, they use him in the shuffle pass right out front. He runs. He's got tremendous speed. He runs north and south well. He runs east and west as well. He's a very talented young man and has had a fantastic year. The combination out there, putting the guys that came out this year that have stood out more has been Bethel, McMillan, and Nairn has done a great job of. We weren't sure what we were going to get in Jackson Nairn. Yeah, we weren't sure if Bobby was injured last year, what kind of year he would have coming back. And Wendell Bethel, we knew he had decent hands and speed, but we just didn't know what he could produce. And I'm going to tell you right now, this young man has been it's like the bright star shines right there. On defense, we knew what we had. Yeah. We knew that you had Trevante O'Neal on one end, and you had Kiana Coote on the other end, and in between you had Davon Hicks, Equan Anderson, and then but the guy that to me that really shined was the kid Keyshawn Campbell. Yeah. I mean, he had a phenomenal year filling when Davon was hurt. He stepped in and did a great job. You had Taylor in the middle, and you had Neely. Those young men played fantastic because they had great bookends behind. But without Davon Hicks, that leader, this defense, Coach Robert Leslie, the defensive coordinator, kept this team together and moving. And how about Nigel Brown? How about Garner? I mean, these are guys that
DeAndre Kelly.
I mean, this secondary found a way.
Drisdom.
Oh, absolutely. Did a great job of filling it. We knew we had a great set. Defense was really going to be good, and we saw that the other night against Osceola. And if that's the type of play you're going to get from them from here on out, look out. We could go just riding that defense a long way.
You surely can. And, again, look at these numbers. And, Osceola, they come in just like Treasure Coast traditionally have a solid ground game. But what we found out was, this year they have a balanced attack. And, look at the numbers, and it was balanced. 73 on the ground, 76 in the air. That's pretty balanced for an offense. You just got to give a lot of credit to that defense, who, by the way, only gave up 1 first down in the second half of play.
5 total.
5 total.
But let me just say this too, Paul, that this is an offense that was averaging 350 yards a game.
Yeah.
350 yards a game. 39 points a game.
Yeah.
And this defense held them to 2 touchdowns.
1
touchdown, right? Yeah, you're right. 1 touchdown. I'm sorry.
1 touchdown.
1 touchdown and 150 yards of total offense.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Great job, defense.
Definitely was. And, and again, Gary, got to, tip your cap to, you talked about, the guys on offense that emerged. We weren't sure how good Bobby McMillan could be because he'd been dealing with injuries for probably the better half of a season and a half. He certainly has shown what kind of talent he has. But in the last probably 3 to 4 games, how about Ephraim Floyd and what he's been able to accomplish on the field? In that game alone against Osceola, 10 catches for 102 yards.
Well, see, we got him coming back. I'm counting on him for big play, but you're right.
Yeah.
What a year he had, and it's a phenomenal year. It's kind of like out of nowhere. Right. You know what I mean? It's not like it was all season. He was a good receiver. Then all of a sudden, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, all of a sudden the light went on with him, and that happens to kids that when you play, sometimes when that light goes on, the game slows down, and you are ahead of the game then. You're in other words, the game moving so fast, you don't sometimes pick up the reads right, or you don't make your right moves, or you don't see the ball coming. But when the light goes on, the game slows down, and he did for him. And what he do, he produced big play after big play after big play for us with him and Bethel out there. But how about the offensive line? Yeah. We made a move to put Elijah Bacon at center. And, after a few bad snaps, it wasn't that Dylan Reeves wasn't doing, just the snaps where he couldn't get them consistent. Good player, just didn't get it consistent enough. So then you brought Biggins in a guard, and you had Omarion Davis at 1 tackle, and you had Dalton Jordan
and Corey Carter
on that line. And that line has done a fantastic job. That, to me, has been the reason why this offense is scoring over 30-some-odd points a game. I didn't see that coming, us scoring 30-plus points a game because of so many new faces. But I knew our defense would hold them to under 10 points.
Well, in the last couple ball games, Gary, talking about that offensive line, we've done another shift. So they've moved Bacon over to a guard. They brought Reeves back in at center. And he's been doing a good job snapping the ball. That has improved for sure. So what I like about that, Gary, is now you've got some guys who have moved around on the line. They've gotten that experience. So now we get into postseason, and we've seen this so many times. All of a sudden, one play, a kid gets hurt, and now we're trying to figure out what do we do.
Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point, and especially for injuries. When you get a kid hurt, then you can be able to switch kids around and go and fly, put a kid over here. And you're right. And we had some young kids. Biggums is just a junior. Yep. Davis is just a junior out there. Dalton's a sophomore. Reeves is a junior. So, you've got you're losing Bacon.
Bacon's your only senior.
Your only senior on the team. And they got some JV kids that'll be coming up that are going to be really good too. So this is a bright future has been the offensive line. It's been, to me, a pleasure to watch them all season, how they've matured under Kendrick Willis and Pete DeLuke.
Well, you've been inside the press box with Paul Tipton along with Gary Parris, and we're getting set for the playoffs. Vero Beach off this week, and we'll keep our eyes on some key games, including Treasure Coast. Of course, that one in our region that everybody, I think, is going to be looking at is the Dr. Phillips Miami Palmetto game. That should be an awesome game. Who knows, Gary? We may have to just get in the vehicle and head down to Miami and catch that game and see what's going on with that. But anyway, we will step aside. We'll be back next week with another episode of Inside the Press Box. And until then, go Indians.
Thanks for joining us inside the press box. For more, go to ChristianFM.com.